Hey there, everybody. PTPOP here with all four lobes of my brain securely bound behind my back. And today, on a mind revolution where I lead you out of the rabbit hole, one grain of truth at a time, I introduce you to Cleveland area artist, songwriter, poet, and singer and painter, Juniper Mainelis. Thanks for coming today, Juniper. I'm glad to have you here. I really appreciate you coming all the way down here. How far did you have to come?
It's half an hour, it's no biggie.
Oh, that's all? That's not
Yeah, you
bad.
know what I think is funny is people in Cleveland, how they always talk about, distances and east side, west side, and oh my
Yeah.
God, that's on the west side. And I just think it's odd because, okay, so you just get in your car and drive. Because I lived in LA and everything is a long
Oh,
way
did you live
because
out there?
I
You
think the
take a
reason
minute.
why I went to LA is a more interesting thing for your viewers.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. That'd be cool to hear.
Let me tell you the story. Um, when I was 17, um, I ran away from home with the gypsies.
Oh, wow.
Um, there was a street fair that I went to and met these musicians who were traveling around in a painted up old school bus. And one of the guys was eating fire, and they were all dressed in these, like, velvet and vests and, outrageous outfits. And so I thought, this is pretty cool. And, so after the show, we got to talking, and they invited me to come meet everybody and come onto the bus, and the bus had all been, gutted and was like, there was beds in the living area, and it was all, like, painted psychedelic, tie-dye curtains, the whole thing, and, like, 10 of them were traveling around in this bus promoting, uh, their album. They had an album on Mercury Records back then, and, so ended up falling in love with the keyboard player and ran away from home a week after my 17th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And so we traveled around in this painted up bus, and I was just a girlfriend. And they were playing in college campuses and communes and that kind of thing, playing this
Mhm.
original Aquarian gypsy rock music.
Mhm.
And so after a while, they said, "Okay, try singing this backup line." And I became a backup singer, and it was funny because they were all, like, dark-haired, dark-eyed, very gypsy looking, and here I was this blonde-haired, blue-eyed Viking woman. So, it wasn't long before I ended up being the lead singer in the band, and, we got out to LA, and Cass Elliot from the Mamas and the Papas was a good friend of theirs, and we
Oh,
ended up
wow.
living with Cass up in Laurel Canyon
Wow.
until we got settled in Los Angeles. And, yeah, so I was in that band for several years. It was called Romany, and then producers told the band concept is cool, but there's your star." And, I eventually ended up leaving the band, breaking up with Nissan, and signing my first record contract, and
Wow.
pursuing a music career in Los Angeles where I had a Grammy nomination. I
Wow.
had, a video on MTV, did a lot of national touring, did a lot of studio work, working with various different artists, and, did that for many, many years out in Los Angeles. So that's why I was moving around, living in different locations.
Wow, that's
It
fascinating.
was cool. It's very
So
cool.
so what song was nominated for a Grammy?
The song was called "Lies," and that was also the title song for the album, and that was the same song that I had the MTV video, which was back then, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Medium rotation, so it got played multiple times a day. So that was pretty cool, and then there came a point when I just kinda got fed up with the pretentiousness of living in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
were just, it's like who you know, who you hang out with,
Mhm. Yeah.
what parties you go to. It was pretentious.
Oh, sure.
Um, so I moved back to Ohio. I don't know what I was thinking at first. I was kind of just thinking, "Oh, it'd be pretty, I could see the season changes." And yeah, it took me a while to adjust to being back
S
because first thing it really hit me is that people just are different. It's a different pace of life
Here. Oh,
here in the
yeah.
Midwest.
So you grew up. You started off in Ohio.
I grew up, yeah,
What part of
in
town?
Shaker Heights,
Oh, you're
went to
from
Shaker
Shaker.
schools,
Okay.
and, yeah, so, came back and, like, moved in with my parents, which was weird, after being on my own all
Yeah.
those years, um, and ended up staying, fell in love, got married, um, did the mommy thing,
Mm-hmm.
and, was still singing. I was singing in local bands,
Sure.
and, also, when my kids were in school, I would go sing jingles and commercials for radio and TV.
Wow.
Did like Alvin's Jewelers,
Oh yeah.
Giorgio's Pizza, Burger King, some pretty notable
Yeah. Yeah.
local jingles and commercials
Sure.
for radio and TV, and it was nice because it was good money, and I didn't have to be out late at night, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But, yeah, singing, art was always a hobby of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and singing was, what I had pursued for my career.
Sure. Sure.
But, it was getting, about 5 years ago that I decided to just kinda throw myself full time into being an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and, then, like, music was just like a hobby, and I was
Yeah.
painting every single day. I still paint nearly every day,
Oh wow.
so
So, is Juniper your legal name, or is that
no,
a
it's
show
not
name?
my legal name, but,
Is that the name you used in California?
well, yes, I've been known by Juniper a lot longer than I was my birth name, and I won't even tell it to you because I don't resonate with it.
Yeah.
But when I was living in LA, I wasn't planning on it. I was just sitting in a Thai restaurant having dinner one evening, and the name Juniper jumped into my head. And it was like, Juniper, that's who you are, Juniper. And I was born in June, and I said, I really like that. And I took it on as my stage name. This was early on when I was in Los Angeles and trying to kinda
Hmm.
get my identity, my stage thing
Yeah.
happening. So, yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
people, all my friends and people who've known me the longest, call me June or Juniper.
Yeah.
My family doesn't. They still wanna call me by my birth name.
No, that's understandable. It's a beautiful name, and
Thank
I
you.
thought it was something to do with terrestrial or
Not
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Not Jupiter. No. Okay. Because there seems to be a lot of, we'll get to it later, but it seems to be a lot of symbolism in your paintings.
Well, there
And
definitely is,
yeah.
yes.
So, but so you and I have a mutual friend, friends, Bob and Debbie Carruthers.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you meet them?
I was working on a recording project,
Mm-hmm.
one of many projects
Yep.
here locally, and someone had told me about their studio back when the studio was up and running.
Yeah.
And so I went out and met Bob, and of course, then met Debbie, and done several projects there at their studio. And then I
Mm-hmm.
got invited to their annual picnics every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So it's just that kind of thing.
They're great people
They
because
sure are.
I recorded a whole bunch of music with Bob in
Yeah,
his barn there,
yeah.
and
Oh, I love that studio.
oh yeah, it's awesome. I
Yeah.
remember the first time I went to it, I can't even describe the feeling.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, yes, I want to record here because a friend of mine introduced me to him,
Mhm.
and just I was just like, wow, this I've never thought of a
Yeah.
barn and a studio in a barn. It seems
Yeah,
so
it was just a
yeah.
beautiful studio, and I think it's still there, but, I don't believe they've been using it as a recording studio
No,
for many years now.
he's had me in there every now and then over the last 10 years. I moved back to Ohio from Arizona 10 years ago, and he's had
Okay.
me in 3 or 4 times. I think it's bits and pieces of it are still around.
Mhm.
He's got he does most everything on a laptop now, and
Yeah,
things like most of us do. But yeah, they're great people, and I'm sorry to hear about Debbie being so
yeah,
sick, and that's been really
yeah, it's very
heartbreaking.
sad and
Yeah,
shocking.
yeah, very is. It really
Yeah.
is. Um, and let's see here on your website,
Yeah?
you say I like to describe my work as a sacred journey to open portals of the imagination and self healing. Some have called it visionary art, and some refer to my work as medicine painting.
Yeah.
So, so you paint with the intention of trying to heal people or show them give them a healing vision or a sense of healing?
Um, I do paint with intentions. I use a technique called intentional creativity.
Okay.
And to begin with, I create a sacred space in my studio where whatever that is on that day, it might be just lighting a candle, it might be putting on music, it might be putting rose petals in my flower water or in my paint water.
Mhm.
It might be, smudging or lighting incense but anyway, after I kind of create this sacred space, and it's very symbolic. Um, it's wherever I'm at, whatever I'm feeling emotionally, I'm worried or concerned about.
Uh-huh.
If I'm thinking about someone else, it's I'll touch the canvas. I hold the brush with those thoughts and those feelings and those emotions, and I
Mhm.
infuse the brush. Touch the canvas, infuse it, and the paintbrush becomes sort of like a magic wand. It's like I infuse the whole thing with my intentions, be that for personal healing, be that for anyone who views it, be that for something that I'm concerned or praying for a loved one or for world peace or any other thing in between.
Mhm.
So yes, what I like to think of my paintings as visual prayers,
Mm.
and so that not only am I processing just an intention of something that I want or that I'm praying for, but also sometimes if there's frustration or worry or fear or anger or just an emotion, I make a mark that represents that on the
Mhm.
canvas.
Sure.
And then I say, well, all right, now we have to transform that. I want to let that go. I want to heal that, or I'm sending healing to someone else, whatever my intention is. I'll make another mark. I might, let's say that I have emotion or a fear, paint it a red mark. And these are all the underpaintings. This is not even the actual image. I'll make a mark which represents that, or many marks. And then I might paint over it with, let's say, blue, spritz
Mhm.
it with water and let it drip down over it. And it sort of symbolizes symbolically a transformation, a healing. I'm shifting an emotion, I'm shifting a thought pattern.
Mhm.
And, this continues on in layers and layers and over weeks or months where I'm transforming thoughts, feelings. Sometimes when I'm feeling frustrated, I'll go to the canvas and I call them prayer dots. I'm just making dots or making strokes or marks or moving with no like, oh, this is going to be a landscape or this is going to
So
be a portrait. It's all just movement and line and color.
it's all spontaneous.
It's all spontaneous. And that is all in the underpainting, which
Mhm.
oftentimes looks nothing like what the painting turns out to be.
So you don't plan the
No.
color scheme, you don't plan the
No.
composition, it all happens spontaneously and
I
comes
mean,
out.
sometimes if I'm
Wow.
doing a portrait or something,
Sure,
which I don't
sure.
do a lot of, but I can,
Yeah.
yeah, then there's some planning involved. But generally, at this early stage, because I'm just infusing it with intentions and thoughts, that's what medicine painting is. Um,
Wow.
And so it's in there whether you see it or not. It's like if you walk into a room and somebody's upset, they don't necessarily have to tell you. You can just feel something's off,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, so when people look at my paintings, I've been told and it's my intention that they are moved. Like I said, a visual prayer. Get a sense of something healing or transformational when they just look at it, even if they don't know the story about it.
Mhm.
But there's layers and layers of all those processes,
Sure.
infused in before eventually something clicks where I'll start getting information, like, I'll just know this has gotta be washed down with, like, blue. This is and there's a lot of blue in my paintings.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that 'cause there's that's a dominant color
Yeah.
in most of your
Yeah.
compositions.
Yes. Yes. And then, I'll start to get pieces of information and then I'll go and paint that in. Then I get more detailed, then I get
Mhm.
more specific. A lot of that stuff gets painted over. Most of it gets painted over, but of it will show through. That's why, like, my paintings have layers because there's glazes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Now you were nice enough to bring me a print of the Clockmaker's Daughter.
yeah.
This is a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
And here, let me bring it up on the screen here so people aren't just staring at there we go. Tell me about this. You told me a little bit about it before we started to record. Um, what inspired this piece?
Well, that was and but the original painting is about 6 feet by 5 feet. It's
Oh, was it
huge.
really? Do
Yeah,
you paint in acrylics or oils?
both, but mostly acrylic.
Okay.
So the story with that painting was it was one of those self-healing, experiential kind of things I was working on. I was making marks to represent my childhood or making marks to represent the things that were important to me. And this being appeared, she manifested, and I am the clockmaker's daughter.
Okay.
But here's the story. My father, well, he was a doctor, but he built clocks. It was one of his hobbies,
Hmm.
and uh, there was over 50 clocks in the house I grew up in. And in some rooms, there was like 8, 9 clocks. None of them had the right time. They all chimed every 15 minutes. So it wasn't about a timekeeping device. It was like a living, breathing thing because it was ticking and it was like housed in this beautiful wood cabinet that
Yeah.
he made.
Yeah.
And so the whole house was ticking and every 15 minutes or so there was chimes and gongs and bells going off, not in the bedrooms, but all over the house. And the funny part is with all those clocks in our house, nobody in my family ever got anywhere on time. I mean, every one of us was notoriously late. So
Wow.
it's just kind of funny to live in a house of clocks.
I want to mention your website here. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. It's Heart Songs Studio, and songs is spelled with a Z.
Correct.
And I'll put a link to it in the
Thank you.
description. And you just guys, that's a fascinating story. So this is a painting about your father and and about yourself
Well, yeah.
as the daughter of a clockmaker.
Yes. And there, if you see closely when you look at the painting, there's like little gears in her wild hair, which, if you hadn't noticed, my hair is kind of wild.
Yeah, yeah.
And my father used to say to me when I was a little girl, because I was, I've always been a very creative uh, child, and he would say, "I could just see the gears turning when I look at you."
Yeah.
So, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read you the poem that goes with that.
Yeah, yeah, please do.
She was a piece of work, and clockworks were part of her story. Never got anywhere on time. She was in her own category. Wearing magical glasses, she saw her inventions come alive. One side, visionary perspective, the other, to make ideas thrive. She'd visualize concepts and ideas and nurture them with care by opening her heart with her own key, which she carried everywhere. Her top hat was a secret portal that she used whenever she chose, allowing her to receive inspiration, and frequently the occasion arose. Her father built clocks and fine cabinets to house the moving gears. Her mother painted and wrote poetry for all her dearest dears. Many say she came by it rightly, and to that most have agreed. The clockmaker's daughter was an artist, 'twas in her blood indeed. She could breathe life into visions and watch as the seeds would grow, knowing which ones to harvest and nurture those in embryo. The red thread was running through her life and throughout her community, keeping her connected and creating art with every opportunity. She was a piece of work, and clockworks were part of her story. She never got anywhere on time. She was in her own category.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. It almost has it has almost a feel of Dr. Seuss to it in a way. It tells kind of a about a creature almost. You're obviously not a
Yeah,
creature, but that's
yeah.
awesome.
I just kinda created, yeah, this semi, real and semi-fictional character,
S
based off of me.
so your hat a portal?
Yes, of course, of course, and every canvas is a portal.
Yes.
Every canvas yes, but this I have a thing for top hats if
Yeah.
I like to wear them and, collect them.
And what
This one is a particularly cool one, it's particularly shabby. It's been around a long time, it was gifted to me, and it was actually owned by a vaudevillian,
oh, wow.
actor. So,
Well, it's
yeah.
a funny thing because it reminds well, there's the Alice in Wonderland had the Mad Hatter,
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
they?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got goggles. I've got goggles.
Oh,
I
sweet.
just love the steampunk
Oh, I
thing.
love that.
I've got ones that have lights in them, and people can't see what I'm doing, but
Oh, well, you gotta put them on, Peter.
oh, yeah, okay. You get to see my bald
I
head.
gotta see this. Are they like faceted? So when you look at them, everything it's like
Yeah,
psychedelic?
these are kaleidoscope goggles.
Oh
So it's like they're
my
like all broken
god, I
glasses and
need to have
oh,
those.
yeah.
Where can I get me some?
I bought them online. I just got them off of the internet off of,
Well, you'll
Etsy.
have
I
to
think it
show
was
me where
Etsy.
you found those. Those are fabulous.
I've got a pair here that have lights.
Oh, wow.
Turn my everything, but they light up and, I can do my glasses on. And you're the first person I've ever worn these for other than my wife. She thinks I'm nuts. But they light
I
up and,
all right. Yeah, you got a little bit of a punk thing happening with the spikes there.
I don't know if it's work I'm kind of a closeted, like, gothic person. When I was a kid
You were into goth?
no, no, but when I was a kid, it was called, punk, I think it
Oh,
was
punk
called.
rock.
I don't know if it's doing anything or not, but
Well, they're lighting up on the
are they?
outer rims of them.
Are they?
They're like flashing
Oh, yeah,
blue.
yeah.
Woo! They
Wow.
yeah. Well, yeah. I was a total bohemian gypsy,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, into all the. Well, I grew up with the Beatles and Joni
Yes.
Mitchell and uh, Crosby, Stills and Nash and all that great singer-songwriter stuff. Big Beatles fan.
We have a guest.
Oh, yeah?
That's,
Is that George?
that's George, Beetle George from, like,
S
1964.
Sweet. Is that an original?
Yeah, it is. I have
Wow.
a friend, his mother this was his mother's, and we were in high school, and I harassed the 2 of them until she finally just, "Oh, shut the hell and take it, just take it."
Just take it.
So I I've had it's worthless because it doesn't have the plastic guitar.
Oh, well.
If it had the guitar,
But
it'd be yes,
it's
that's
something that has
yeah.
sentimental value to you.
So
Well, I
it's
actually, saw the Beatles in concert live when I was a kid. I went to my first Beatle concert when I was in 3rd grade on a school night.
wow.
My
See, I would
sister and
never
I.
guess. You don't look you're anywhere near old enough to have seen the Beatles.
Oh, believe me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But go ahead, I'm sorry with your story.
Which story?
Oh, about the Beatles, seen the
Oh,
Beatles.
saw the Beatles. We went, my older sister and I
Yeah.
took the rapid transit down on
Oh,
a school
wow.
night. I can't believe my mother let us go on the rapid downtown Cleveland at night. I
Yeah.
mean, I would never let my kids do that. I don't even wanna take the rapid transit at night.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we went down there and saw them twice. I think they came to Cleveland, twice
Yeah,
in,
the
like, a
public
couple-year
hall
period.
and the
Public hall.
stadium. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we
Wow.
were out there screaming and,
Yeah. That's thrilling. Awesome.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you paint in acrylics, sometimes oils. And so what is the symbolism in some of your work? Because there seems to be a lot of like I don't know if to call them hieroglyphics of some sort. There's
Well
oh the top hat's a common theme. Um,
yeah, yeah, a lot of the symbols are channeled symbols that it's a little esoteric, but
mhm.
I do channel light language and
What is light language?
okay, it's called an angelic language. Some people call it light language or language of light. Some people call it speaking in tongues. I don't really refer to it that way.
Sure.
I think that has more of a Christian twist to it, which is not what my intention is.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to write it. It's like I kind of, when I'm painting, um, oftentimes I kind of get in an altered state. And it first started actually when I was painting and I was just painting these symbols. And afterwards, I'm looking at the painting going, "What did I just paint? I
Mhm.
don't understand." And I'm
Yeah.
looking on the internet, I'm trying to find, does this actually mean something? I'm looking up, some people say, "Yeah, sort of looks like runes, sort of like looks like this, but not quite." So finally, when I couldn't find what it was, I asked myself, because I painted it.
Mhm.
I said, "What have I done here?" And it was like another part of myself, my higher self, or the
Mhm.
observer, laughed and said, "Well, it took you long enough." And they just said, "That's light language, and it's
Huh.
the language of light, and it's not meant to be specifically, the exact, interpretation of it. It's supposed to be just received. You don't need to, like,
Yeah.
know what the translation is." But, yeah, there's, many symbols that are just intuitively, I'm guided.
Well, there's one piece I'm showing here called I Am Light,
Oh, yes, well, I'll tell you
and
the story about that
there's
one.
just like so much going on in this piece.
Okay, I'll tell you the story about that
Okay.
painting. So that painting is called a legend painting, and it is like a self-portrait, but it doesn't have to specifically look like you, although I've done more, likenesses, but that was more just like a soul portrait of who I am. And I
Mhm.
started asking myself, "Well, who am I?" Well, I could do all the obvious labels. I'm a woman, I'm a she, I'm a her, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an American, I'm a Caucasian, all those kind of things. But that's not who I am. Well,
Mhm.
who am I? And so I just kept asking deeper and deeper. And finally, the thing that resonated and seemed to make the most sense is that I am light, because we all are made of light,
Mhm.
and before we come into form and when we leave, we go back to the light. So the painting is titled I Am Light, and it seemed like, and there's layers and layers and layers of all of my prayers and
Mhm.
things that I want for other people to receive when they look upon this painting. But there's figures on each side. The one in the middle is a being who's holding out a candle, and um, she's not saying like, "Look at me, I'm light," like I'm on a billboard. It's more like she's humble. She has a cloak and she's
Mhm.
holding out the candle, and it's more like being a light bearer for other, like, I'm holding out the light for you
Mhm.
to put a light on your path, whatever that path is. And then you'll notice the guardians they're holding the lanterns, and they are also cloaked. And there's the great light above her head, which is like whatever that is,
Mhm.
where creation
Mhm.
comes from. And we can't really see it. We can't really understand it. It's what it is, and it's beaming light onto the guardians who are holding the lanterns, and it's beaming down to me holding the candle. But then there's these figures on either side, and the light beams are beaming over there. One is painting. She's painting light symbols. That's light language. She's painting the light language. And so because it's a self-portrait, so I am painting the light, and then the other figure is she's speaking and singing light, and you see the symbols coming out of her mouth.
Mhm.
She's speaking and singing light, and the other one is painting and writing light. And then the figure in the middle is just being light. And then the little scrolls down at the bottom are like, "Know thyself, be the light." Because when people look upon that image, people cry, or they just say, "I don't know, I just feel so moved by this." Um, again, it's infused with a lot of intentions.
Yeah, it's a very, not surreal, but, what's the word I want? I had it written down here. Ethereal, heavenly new age aesthetic to it, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, and also the fact that it's all painted in blues and white, basically. I mean, there's other subtle colors in there, but,
Mhm.
I thought any other colors would take away from light. It's like painting with light, you know?
Yeah, it has a very radiant quality, a very peaceful quality. When I see it, I feel very like I'm kinda like you said, transported into kind of a different dimension or realm or something. It's a very calm, serene feeling, and all the lines connect it. Like, I can't believe you didn't consciously plan this painting because it's all nicely balanced, and the lines that connect the whole thing that lead your eye. You're always drawn back to the center figure, but if you look over to the right, the lines take you back up to the light, the top, back down.
Yeah.
This is all mumbo jumbo I learned in college about.
No, I understand what you're saying because, I mean, I've learned those in drawing
Yeah,
classes and
yeah,
stuff like that. You want the eye to have a focal point,
yeah.
and you want, like, anything that's gonna lead the viewer back to,
Mhm.
so those connecting lines, I mean, I've incorporated things I've learned and things that I know,
Sure,
but
sure.
also I think it all makes sense.
It's a gorgeous piece. Now you're wearing your artwork.
Yes, I am.
That's beautiful. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know if
this is the Clockmaker's Daughter. I
yeah,
have
yeah, that's just beautiful. I think
I have it on my I have it on my tote bag here too.
very
I
nice.
sell these too.
Yeah, I would think those would be really popular.
Both those paintings, and another one were just in the woman's show,
Mhm.
which was at Lakeland Community College, which is a big deal show here in the Cleveland
Yeah.
region. And I heard about it several years ago and inquired, like, well, how do I enter that show? How do I get into that?
Uh-huh.
And I was told, you don't. You have to be invited into it. And um, fortunately, I was invited and was in it this year, earlier this year.
Awesome, and congratulations. I
Thank
know
you.
I haven't been to Lakeland in a long time. I grew up in Cleveland Heights and then moved to Chardon, so I'm more
Okay.
familiar with Lakeland, and, I know the art show out there is really popular.
Mary Urbis, the curator there
Mhm.
in the gallery at Lakeland, um, she finds like the most extraordinary women artists here in the region and invites them to be in this show. And I have to also bring up a comment about women in the arts.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Historically, only 2% of women have been represented in museums and galleries. Still to this day.
Really?
Still to this day, 2% of women are represented. And it's very sad. And so the fact that Mary Urbis started this show in our region here, I believe 16 years ago,
Mhm.
and several other galleries have followed suit and have their version of women shows, which I've been in quite a few of them. But it was a great honor to be in that one, and I'm also very involved with this organization, Intentional Creativity Musea, which they have their own museum, and
Mhm.
it's, run by women, and it's only women artists. So I'm a big, supporter of, women in the arts, and, we need to have an equal voice, because we have just as much creative,
Oh, sure, sure.
contribution. I think it's important to being a woman to, use my voice,
Oh,
to,
yeah. Yeah.
also, I don't wanna get into political stuff with my art, but I do think that women, men, or anybody who identifies anything in between there, um, should be empowered, and that's what I try and infuse into, my artwork, like I said, visual prayers, because even if they don't understand the story or my
Mhm.
personal intentions,
Sure,
and I
sure.
don't even I used to try and explain it to people, and if they ask, I'll tell. But, now I think it's more important what the viewer takes away from that. It could be
Sure.
something different, but hopefully to view the artwork, to see it displayed is to give them a sense of being empowered. It's um it's not just pretty background art.
Sure.
It's something that it sparks inquiry and conversation and gnosis, or metacognition, thinking about what you're thinking about,
Mhm.
having conversation, which
Mhm.
gets you to understand or think about something, or just go, I don't know what it is, I just like it.
Yeah.
It's not just like pretty background stuff. You know.
I'm looking at one of your pieces here called Knowing Myself.
Uh
And
huh.
this is just a fascinating piece. Now, this is a self portrait, correct? To some
Yeah.
degree?
Yeah. That one was, and that's the one where she's kind of on a tightrope that's on fire,
Oh,
and
oh, yeah.
and her
Yeah.
dress is on fire, and she is a conduit. She's reaching up and receiving inspiration, holding her illuminated paintbrush, and she's also reaching down with her tambourine, like keeping the rhythm, holding down, like grounding to the earth, keeping the rhythm, reaching up, receiving. Um, and she is, if you look at all the symbols and you
Mhm.
see her body's kind of transparent and you see she's kind of in
Mhm.
like an embryonic uh, oval, it's like the recipe of me. You know what I mean? The recipe of me. These are all um, the components, the experiences, the
Mhm.
history.
And the oval could represent birth or the egg
Yeah.
or the womb.
Right, and all those symbols that are painted
Yeah.
around the blue oval, that's all light language, and many of those symbols are light language.
It's a beautiful use of colors and the way you've created this like fire. Like her dress is almost like fire.
It is, she's on
Yeah.
fire, and she's dancing on a tightrope of flames. You see the
Yeah.
observer up in the corner too, that face with the eyes closed?
Let me go back here. Oh, yes, in the upper
That's the
left-hand corner, yeah.
that's the observer, and we all have an observer,
Huh.
and, yeah, then there's a prayer actually written in there. It's not in light language, it's actually painted right on the under the moon. You see there's
Yes.
words, there's
Yeah.
a whole prayer in there. And my intention is no one has to try and figure out what the symbols mean. It's just written there what
And
it is.
and if you wanna see some of her work on the internet, go to Heart Songs Studio. That's Songs with a Z. I'll put a link to it here, and this is just some beautiful work. Are you playing music still? Do you play out live anywhere?
I have not been playing out live in like 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
I've devoted myself full time to my art, but kind of crazy thing happened. About 4 years ago, I was in the middle of painting and I was not planning on it, and I
Mhm.
started writing songs that went with the paintings. And so I released an album. It's called My Compass Journey, and it's not like a genre of music. That
Mhm.
it's kind of like those songs are like the soundtracks for the paintings. And I mean, there's lyrics and stories, but that's an interesting story too, because I did a series of paintings, which
Mhm.
was like a vision quest, and it started like if you were going to go on a journey, you would start in the center, right, and figure out where you're going, and then you'd find north, and so there's a painting which represents where I am, where I begin, and the north painting is my muse. And it was during the muse painting that I started getting the download of light language and writing songs. Then we went to the east, and I claimed myself for being an artist and also reweaving in the fragments of things that, we all have trauma and painful things in our life that have caused us to fragment. And I went and kind of gathered the fragments of myself, of, broken things that had broken away because of trauma,
Oh,
and
sure.
called them back in, and then, in the South is where I noticed that I was changing and people were seeing me differently, and, that painting is was my called Alchemy, and it has to do with, connecting with where I'm getting information, and, like, I don't necessarily get all my information from the internet or books.
Mhm.
Sometimes I get downloads, like, I just get knowing stuff. I get poetry, I get songs, I get ideas and images.
Mhm.
And that song was a particularly beautiful song called Lady of the Stars that goes with that painting. And it's a painting of a woman who's kind of made of stardust. And
Is that on this website? Is it on your
yeah, no, 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 that one is not on that one.
Okay.
Sorry. But she's like playing her own heartstrings. And there's a dolphin in that painting. I'm not sure if it's on that website. It might be. Um, it's just about connecting with where you get your guidance from. And then in the end, the visionary, that one's definitely on the website. Um, we go to the West, and that's where I connect with being a visionary and speaking my truth. And that painting is a woman who's empowered. She's lit up, she's on fire. Her heart is like on fire, flames coming up out of her heart, and yet it's covered with honeycomb. And the honey is dripping off of it, and the
Mm.
little honeybees are fluttering around. And there's one giant queen bee there. And it's like, I am the queen bee. I am claiming my own power, and I am lit up. And that's the song Visionary Woman. And yeah, so I go through these like metaphysical, journeys. Some people say, "Well, what are you taking?" Like, "What are you smoking?" Um, been there, done that, but I don't need to, because I mean, painting puts me into this altered state.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I paint not like what more traditional stuff, but when I paint, it's like I go into this different
Yeah, you go into the
it's like
zone.
meditation. And
Yeah,
when it's different when I play guitar or when I do this.
yeah,
Guitar is a whole different zone, but painting is just like
yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. It's just like I'm not present anymore.
Well, try even like when you even make it more of a ceremony, like I said, creating sacred space, I mean, when you approach the whole thing, you light the candle or
Oh.
you do things which represent that I'm creating something and I'm allowing
Mhm.
this imagery or these ideas, I approach it as a ritual or as a
Sure.
sacred experience, and that's why I think I just kinda go into this altered state,
Mhm.
and get these downloads. Yeah,
We've got some beautiful music. I was gonna try to play some today, but I couldn't get the audio, but check out Juniper's music as well. It's really amazing stuff.
thank you.
What do you have planned? What do you have coming up in the near future or down the road?
I am busy, trying to produce art. I've been painting a lot and
Yeah.
trying to get merchandise. I'm gonna be doing my very first, show, like, in a art open market kinda thing, for the Willoughby Arts Festival. There's supposed to
Oh,
be over
nice.
7,000 people there, so
Wow.
I'm busy, painting and, getting prints made and merchandise, totes, mugs, that kinda thing. I've been in a lot of art shows. I actually am going when I leave here today, I'm going to drop some art off.
Okay.
Still doing the juried shows. Oh, and I should mention that I am a Stella's artist. Stella's Art Gallery in Willoughby. There's over 70 artists there, and I'm one of them. And I have a little uh, space there with some wall space,
Yeah.
a little storefront there, and I have originals and prints and merchandise.
Oh, that's excellent.
And so, in between that and just trying to keep up with all my stuff, I'm always
Oh,
growing, working on developing my skills as an artist.
we've got
You
some
know,
beautiful work. Have you tried the Cane Park Arts Festival in
and no,
Clayton Heights?
that my very first art festival is coming up in Willoughby.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's too late to apply for the Cane Park, and then
Yeah.
you have to have the tent and the
Yeah. Yeah.
display and all that stuff, so
Yeah.
I'm f I'm a late comer, but I'm getting it together.
Oh, it's awesome. No, you guys, I think your work would go over well and any art show. It's just a
Well, thank
fascinating to
you.
look. It's very vibrant, positive.
Sometimes I think that Northeast Ohio, maybe, I'm a little too woo-woo or something for the
Well,
people around here. They're a
yeah,
little more conservative,
yeah. We're all kind of stuck back in another decade, I think, here, and I think you should try to go mobile, go to New Mexico and California,
Oh,
and
yeah. I have a big, fan following out west,
oh yeah, yeah,
and in Europe.
yeah,
Northeast Ohio is still trying to figure out what visionary art is and
yeah,
what,
yeah,
medicine painting, what? And,
yeah.
but, I do have, lots of people who are, supportive and follow me.
Excellent.
I'm growing my Instagram page, my Facebook page, and my website. Um, yeah, and the website, you can actually order prints and merchandise there. If you want to buy original paintings, usually I do that in person.
Okay, yeah, I've got the website back up here. Well, Juniper, it's been awesome having you coming down here. Your work is just amazing. You've got a beautiful voice too. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about your music, but this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming down,
Thank you
and
very much.
yeah, I hope we can keep in touch. I'll
I
send you
hope so.
some of my paintings. They're not as good as yours, but I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Peter. I love being here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You too.